Welcome to my channel. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer. In this video, I will be getting into the energy of Mercury retrograde in Virgo. For the first portion of this video, I will get into the general energy. And then the second portion of this video, I will get into all 12 rising signs. That way you're able to see how this energy is showing up for you more personally. Now, if you align with my energy and you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit the post notification bell so that you can get notified every time I upload a new video. So Mercury will be stationing retrograde August 23rd until September 15th in Virgo and moving from 21 degrees of Virgo to 8 degrees of Virgo. So you want to look at your birth chart and see if you have any personal planets or points between 8 and 21 degrees of Virgo, because Mercury will be moving over this area of your chart 3 times. And at the time of me recording this video, Mercury is already in its pre-shadow period, meaning that you really want to be paying attention to what is showing up for you at this time, any themes or topics, because you will be revisiting, or this will give you an idea of some things that you may be revisiting during the Mercury retrograde period. So if we really want to see how this energy is going to be affecting us, let's look at Mercury. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury rules our communication, our mind, our mindset, how we think, how we learn, how we speak, and even a part of our decision making. So during a Mercury retrograde period, that is why sometimes we can have a lack of clarity, brain fog, and sometimes, depending on how, that last Mercury retrograde we had back in April was an intense one. That one was around eclipse season in Taurus. This one is not going to be as intense because Mercury is at its exaltation. Mercury loves being in Virgo. So Virgo is a very analytical sign, loves to pay attention to the details, loves organizing. It's a very mental focused sign. So Mercury does very well. Mercury is basically on holidays and vacation in Virgo. So this Mercury retrograde I actually like. I don't think this one's going to be as intense. However, there can still be that lack of clarity. Even issues with discernment. There can also be energies around, you never really want to sign any important paperwork or documents during a Mercury retrograde because there can be something that is missed or misunderstood that will end up coming up at the time that Mercury stations direct. So you still do want to follow the rules of Mercury retrograde where, try to hold off on signing any papers or moving forward with anything business-wise. Even financially too, because we still have Venus retrograde. But as far as moving through our daily lives, this one I think is going to be a lot easier. This energy will be a lot easier as far as our mind and focusing. Now, during Mercury retrograde, we do also want to watch our technology, sending text messages, emails. This is where you can send somebody the wrong email or text message. So you do want to be mindful of that. This is where there can be miscommunication, especially on social media or through messages, because you can't see facial expressions or hear tones. And this is when people can take a message the wrong way or a comment the wrong way. So you do want to be mindful of that. Now, when a planet stations, this is where the energy becomes super potent, super powerful. And so the day before, the day of, and the day after, August 23rd. So August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th is when we can feel kind of this lack of clarity, brain fog, lack of discernment, even a lack of motivation. Now, as I say that, I remember we have Mars in Virgo. So we do have, which is actually great, the fact that we only have Mars in Virgo though until August 27th, and then Mars will enter Libra. So I guess we do have that great support for Mars during the Mercury station. So that is nice. So where normally we would have kind of this lack of direction, we have Mars kind of there supporting us. And then we also have this Mercury retrograde forming a trine to Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus. This is interesting. So I think collectively we will hear a lot of shocking information. This can be, though, again, Uranus is the great awakener. So this can be a lot of intuitive insight, intuitive downloads. This is a time, like I always say, we want to be journaling, meditating, earthing, all of that, because when we have Mercury connecting to Uranus, we can have a lot of anxiety, and especially with Mercury being retrograde, this can be a very anxious time. So if you do struggle with anxiety, make sure you're drinking a lot of water, you're taking care of your body, your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, and your spiritual body. You need to be earthing every day if possible and getting your feet on the ground. This is going to be very important during this time because we have Uranus communicating with Mercury. And then August 28th, we will have Uranus station retrograde. So then we will have Mercury and Uranus both retrograde communicating with one another. And so this can be a time where we are struggling with anxiety. This can also be a time that can be very confusing collectively. This is where we can hear a lot of shocking information. We can see a lot of craziness on the news, social media. So we really want to be discerning, and sometimes that can be hard during a Mercury retrograde. So the best thing to do is to just sit with the energy, go within, trust your intuition. What is your intuition telling you? Because we are going to hear a lot of shocking information about a lot of different things, and there can be a lot of confusion. And because Uranus is in Taurus, we're talking about these Taurian themes and topics, our financial systems, money, food supply, what we need to feel safe, secure, stability. We can hear a lot at this time around all of these themes and topics. Now, on August 29th, Mercury retrograde is going to form in conjunction to Chiron retrograde. This is interesting. When I tapped into this energy, I really felt, Chiron represents our wounds, our vulnerabilities, traumas. This is where something can come up, come to your awareness that you may have to, that can be confusing at first, but you may have to sit with and feel out. And so you do want to be mindful around the 29th of August, anything that is coming up for you, because an in conjunction can be confusion and just a not understanding of how to move forward, and not understanding of how to really heal with what has just been brought to your attention. So sit with that energy. We have a lot of Chiron energy right now, and with Chiron being retrograde in Aries, this is when, and even communicating with Venus retrograde. And again, this is a lot around relationships, self-love, self-worth. So this is where, with Mercury retrograde kind of coming in and connecting to Chiron, this is where there can be a lack of mental direction around where to go next. So try not to stress, try to just sit with the energy, feel it out. Now, September 3rd, Mercury retrograde is going to form a trine to Jupiter and Taurus at 15 degrees. And so Jupiter is at 15 degrees where Jupiter is going to station retrograde. And again, I will make a video about this because it's going to be very interesting. There's a lot of interesting energy around that. So I will post a video about Jupiter retrograde going into all 12 rising signs. But this is where Jupiter can be bringing in really beautiful energy, insight around direction. If there's anything you're moving through that's confusing, or anything that you have a lack of clarity, this is where Jupiter can really bring in some beautiful, supportive, stable, secure energy to work with. Now, one thing to be mindful of is that on September 4th, while Mercury retrograde and Jupiter are forming a trine, Jupiter is going to station retrograde. And so where it's like we have this beautiful trine energy coming in where we can have beautiful insight, Jupiter's hitting Mercury, bringing in this supportive energy, then Jupiter stations retrograde. So things can become confusing fast, I feel like. And this is where we really have to be in touch with our emotions, our intuition, to really feel out what we're moving through, because we're going through all of this retrograde energy. At this point now in Jupiter stations retrograde, we will have 7 planets. Well, actually no, because Venus will station direct. So we will still have 6 planets, but it's like, I believe Jupiter stations retrograde the day after Venus stations direct. And so Venus stations direct September 3rd. But remember, when a planet stations, that energy becomes very potent. So when Venus stations, whatever you're moving through financially, around relationships, this is where there can be some interesting energy coming in. We want to be mindful. We want to have the awareness. There can be clarity, but whatever you're moving through. And I always say whatever you're moving through because I know that this is showing up for all of us differently. I know a lot of people are moving through relationship stuff now because we have a lot of energy around that. I know we're moving through collectively a lot of money and financial energies and changes. And so I always say, however this is showing up for you, because I know that this energy can show up in many forms for a lot of different people. So when I say that, you want to just be aware of whatever you're moving through, this energy can show up the same way but differently, if that makes sense. And so when Venus stations, this is where you have this powerful energy around clarity in the direction that you need to move in, or this is where something really powerful can happen. So again, when a planet stations, and then September 4th, when Jupiter stations retrograde, it's like we have Jupiter and Venus both stationing, one retrograde, one direct, and then Mercury retrograde is kind of conversating with all of this. And so we can have very powerful situations happening. And because Mercury is retrograde, there's like a lack of discernment, a little bit of confusion. And so we do want to be mindful around this time, the first week of September, around what we're moving through. Have that awareness, be mindful. I always say when you have the awareness, you can move through these energies a lot more effectively and consciously, and you have a better understanding of what and why certain things are showing up for you. Now, while we have all of this energy happening, we have Mercury retrograde basically combust because we have the sun in Virgo. So this really adds to the mercurial energies that we're moving through. When Mercury forms the Mercury cazimi, which is when Mercury and the sun come exact, this is on September 5th and 6th. This is where you can get very powerful insight, very powerful downloads, where your intuition can be heightened, your clarity can be heightened, discernment, mental focus. That energy is beautiful, but leading up to that point and after, the sun expands the Mercury retrograde energy. And so we do just want to be mindful of that during the end of August and beginning of September, that we do have Mercury combust with the sun. And so again, this will depend on if you have Mercury retrograde natally or not, how this energy will show up for you. And if you do, this can be a very powerful time for intuition, for clarity, for direction and discernment. This can, if you don't have Mercury retrograde, this can be very confusing. This can be a time where you have lack of direction, where you don't know which decision to make. You don't know if you should go in this direction or in that direction. And so the best thing to do is to just sit with the energy. And then, of course, because we have the Uranian element to it, make sure you're grounding. This will help you move through this energy and gain focus, gain clarity. And, Mercury retrograde, Mercury is going to station direct September 15th. So this energy will not last long. And if you can, hold off making any decisions, moving forward with anything significant until after the 15th, if you can. And I know that sometimes we can't help it. We have to do things. So I suggest earthing, meditating, and drinking a lot of water. And that will really help kind of balance your body out, balance your energy out, and be able to kind of move through this energy effectively. Now let me bring your attention to September 14th. So the day before Mercury stations direct, we will have the new moon in Virgo. And I will, of course, post a video going into all of that energy specifically and going into all 12 rising signs. So make sure you watch for that. But it's at 21 degrees of Virgo. This is where Mercury stationed retrograde. So this 21 degree point of Virgo is very significant and going through a lot of energy shifts. There's a lot of focus in this area of your chart. So if you know where you have Mercury at 21 degrees of Virgo, that's going to show you themes and topics. And of course, when we get into all 12 rising signs in this video, you'll get an idea. But if you have anything around that, any personal planets or points around that 21 degree mark, it's going to be going through a lot of energy shifts. Now, the interesting thing about this is, because remember, we're in Virgo. So another thing we really want to be mindful of during this whole entire time period is being too critical on ourselves, being too critical of others, understanding too that a lot of people are moving through these energies and don't understand, because not everybody follows astrology. And I can tell you, just in my own personal life, kind of moving through this and understanding the energies and astrology, and since I've become a professional astrologer, it's helped me be able to kind of navigate my daily life working with people that are not aware of the energies. But we have to be mindful that people don't understand sometimes why they're feeling a certain type of way or they're moving through certain things. You have that awareness because you're watching and listening to this video, because you follow astrology. So these energies, where they can be difficult and they can bring situations and experiences, we all have to move through them differently. Having the awareness, I believe, is 50% of the challenge. That really gives you that up to be conscious, be aware, move through these energies effectively. And so we have to be mindful, though, that, because it's in Virgo, people can be very critical, very analytical, nitpicky even, because that could be a Virgo energy where, people are just critiquing everything, holding on to specific directions and outcomes and journeys. And that's going to be shifted. We have Uranus in play. And so there's a lot of sudden shifts taking place. You have the awareness, but not everybody does. And so we just have to be mindful of that, be aware. Virgo season is a beautiful time to get things done, to organize, to clean. And so, but a lot of people, but again, it's a time where people can be very analytical, over criticizing, and not just other people, but yourself. So definitely be mindful of that. And so I really hope that this video helps you kind of move through this energy, have the awareness. You can write the dates down that are in this video, just to give you, and I always post weekly forecasts. So of course I will get into this energy more so the closer we get to these dates. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Mercury retrograde, for natal Mercury retrograde people, can be a really beautiful time, especially this one, because it's in Virgo. So we don't necessarily have the lack of clarity, lack of discernment, lack of direction as heightened, if in a way, because Mercury does very well. But again, it's got the Uranian element. So there's a suddenness, a disruption, chaos, all of that. So we definitely want to be mindful. And I think collectively we will hear a lot of shocking information. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion too from some people that are possibly not aware of these energies, what's going on. And so we definitely want to be mindful, especially too around our finances, financial systems at this time. So thank you so much for joining me. And now let's get into all 12 rising signs. Aries, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 6th house, and the 6th house represents your work, your health, your daily routine, your nutrition habits, your workout routines, and really the routines that you do day to day. And so during this time period, you can be reflecting and reevaluating all of that. Maybe this is a time where you realize that you need to implement some type of new routine, or you feel too like the routine you've been moving through, whether it's workout, health, nutrition, that you need to shift it or change it in some way. This is also a period of time where there can be changes within your workplace or a lack of clarity or direction within your workplace. Now, this Mercury also rules your 3rd house. And so the 3rd house represents your community, your neighbors, neighborhood, and also communication. And so this is where too, you can really be feeling the issues around communicating. You can really be feeling even possibly like you're not able to speak. That is something that where you can't get the words out of your mouth. That's something that really does happen during Mercury retrograde, or you keep fumbling over your words. That can definitely be a thing for everybody, but especially you because you have Gemini ruling your 3rd house. This can also be a time where you're possibly having a misunderstanding with a neighbor or a cousin or a sibling. And so you definitely want to be mindful of that during this Mercury retrograde period. One other thing to be mindful of, Aries, is that you have Uranus and Jupiter in your 2nd house of money and finances, and Mercury retrograde will be connecting to that energy. So you may have some unexpectedness around work and your money and finances in some way. So just another thing to be mindful of. Taurus, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 5th house, and the 5th house is a really beautiful energy. It represents creativity, passion, children, your hobbies, your interests, and really what you enjoy doing in life. And so during this Mercury retrograde period, you can be reevaluating all of that, really implementing new things, or even deciding that certain things, or even deciding things you used to be passionate about, maybe you're not anymore. Maybe discovering what's no longer in alignment with you. If you have children, this can be a time where there can be something coming up around your children. Now, you have Gemini in the 2nd house. Mercury rules Gemini. The 2nd house represents money, finances, material possessions. And so you may have financial things coming up at this time, possibly even something maybe you're not understanding. There can be confusion around your money and finances, but financial situations may arise at this time, something around your money and finances. Now, this Mercury retrograde's connecting to Uranus and Jupiter, which is in your 1st house. So there is a lot here about your direction, what you love, what you enjoy, what you're passionate about, and even your creativity. This can be a time where you're really reflecting or redirecting or editing something. This would be a perfect energy to do some editing. Any of your creations or projects that you've started that need editing, this would be a perfect time to do so. So because of the unexpected energy, we do want to be mindful of anything kind of coming in around. Even intuitively, I'm feeling like children could be a thing, but even just your direction and what you're passionate about and your creations and projects. So Taurus, it really is a beautiful energy to be working with. Gemini, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 4th house, and the 4th house represents a home, family, property, real estate, possibly parents, your roots. And so these themes and topics are all prevalent during this Mercury retrograde period. There can be something coming up that possibly is confusing, possibly you're not understanding around your home and family, around your property, whether I don't suggest selling at this time or even buying because it is a Mercury retrograde period. So if you can, hold off on that if that is something you're moving through. But this is really a period of time as well where you may be going through some type of transition or reevaluation of your direction, because Mercury rules your first house. So Mercury is your chart ruler. So you tend to feel this. You feel Mercury retrogrades more intensely. They're more powerful for you. So this can also affect your communication, how you're communicating, how you're kind of navigating life. And so if you can, try and do some grounding around this time. Drink a lot of water, meditate, journal. That can really help you move through this energy. Now you also have Uranus and Jupiter in your 12th house, which really brings this type of energy around, because Mercury is connecting to Uranus and Jupiter. There can be some unexpectedness of maybe needing to come away from the world where you're feeling like you can't really focus or gather your thoughts unless you have that alone time. So definitely something to be mindful of, but all in all, Gemini, this is a really nice energy. This can actually also be a time too where you're receiving a lot of intuitive downloads. So again, I highly recommend journaling, meditating, paying attention, and being mindful of what is coming to you intuitively. And that can really help you move through and navigate anything that you're currently going through at this time. Cancer, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 3rd house, and the 3rd house represents your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your day-to-day travels, your local environment, also communication, publishing, reading, writing, speaking, and even your mind, your mindset. And the 3rd house can also represent your cousins and your siblings. And so during this Mercury retrograde period, all of those themes and topics, you may be moving through energies of lack of clarity, lack of direction, even misunderstandings. You really want to be careful at this time of having misunderstandings with siblings, cousins, neighbors. This can also be a period of time where you are moving through something regarding vehicles. Now, I don't recommend purchasing a vehicle at this time. If you can, hold it off until September 15th when Mercury stations direct, because we don't want to sign any important documents or paperwork during this time. There can be misunderstandings or confusion or something we're missing that we will have to kind of deal with at the end of once Mercury stations direct. Now, Mercury also rules your 12th house. The 12th house can represent endings, self-undoing, isolation, and also things that are hidden, like hospitals, asylums, retreat centers. But what I really feel for you, Cancer, is this may be a time where you're just feeling like you need to retreat, possibly come away from the world to reflect, gather your thoughts, to regain your focus and clarity around your direction. This can also be a time where you're really tapping into your spiritual self, and your spiritual practice would really help in guiding you through this energy. Now, we have Uranus and Jupiter in your 11th house forming a trine to all of this. So the 11th house represents friendships, social groups, online connections. This can be a time where you are having some very sudden encounters with friends, some very even sudden situations or experiences regarding online or online businesses. So definitely something to be mindful of around this time. It is a trine, so it won't be anything too chaotic or maybe just disruptive, but in a positive way, kind of. I think more so just unexpected with this Uranian energy. So all in all, it's a really beautiful energy, Cancer. Leo, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 2nd house, and the 2nd house represents money, finances, material possessions, and also too your values, your self-worth even. But Leo, really what I feel with this energy is there may be something coming in around your money and finances, something that's possibly confusing, maybe something you're not understanding, or maybe you're not even knowing the direction yet of which to take, where to go, how to move through this. And so I really suggest, Leo, at this time, sitting with the energy, if you can, hold off on making any important decisions regarding your finances. This isn't a time, Mercury retrograde is not a time where we really want to be signing the dotted line, any important documents or paperwork. So if you can, hold off until after September 15th. Now, you also have Gemini, which rules your 11th house of friendships, social groups, online connections. So there may be something coming up as well around your friends or friendships, or if you have an online business, there can be something financial even coming up around friendships, online business, online connections, social groups. Now you have Uranus and Jupiter in your 10th house of career, public reputation. And so Mercury retrograde is forming a trine to all of that energy, Uranus and Jupiter. So there can be something unexpected around your career showing up, around finances and your career, possibly a new direction, possibly even something that was very unexpected. Now, it is a trine, so it's an easy flowing energy, not necessarily challenging, but it can be shocking because Uranus does have this shocking element to it. So something to just be aware of, be mindful of, but all in all, Leo, it is a nice energy to be moving through. Just be kind of mindful of your money and your finances. And if you can, do some grounding, drink a lot of water just to help ground yourself through any of the energies that you're moving through. Virgo, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your first house. So this is interesting. You are going to feel this more powerfully because you have your ascendant in Virgo, which your ascendant in your first house represents you, your personality, your character, your physical body, how you view this physical reality. And so this is where you can really be questioning your direction. There may even be confusion around the direction that you want to take at this time, which it's a Mercury retrograde. If you can just sit with the energy, try not to move forward with anything. I know sometimes we can't help it and we have to, but this really is a time where you want to sit with whatever is coming in for you. This can be where, meditate, ground, drink a lot of water, feel what's coming in. This is where you can really be rethinking, reevaluating, and redirecting the direction that you want to take in this life. Now, Mercury also rules your 10th house of career, your public reputation. And so there's also a lot of energy here around your career. Maybe there's a new direction that you want to take with your work or career. These themes and topics are really all prevalent at the time of this Mercury retrograde. You can be rethinking your direction, reevaluating your life direction and the career choices that you've made and that you want to make and the direction you want to move in with that. Now, this energy is also forming a trine to Uranus and Jupiter and Taurus, which is in your 9th house of belief systems, higher knowledge, higher education, philosophy, even traveling. So there can be some unexpectedness to this energy because of the Uranian element. Now, this can be just something unexpected coming in around your belief systems, shifting and changing your direction within your career, realizing what is no longer in alignment with you. So all in all, Virgo, it is a nice energy. I think that you'll just be moving through, a new direction, or even kind of that realization of new direction that you want to take with yourself and with your career. Libra, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 12th house, and the 12th house represents isolation, self-undoing, karmic energy, also places that are hidden like asylums, retreat centers, prisons. This can really be an energy of needing to kind of come away from the world to regather your thoughts, and because it's Mercury retrograde and Mercury rules the mind, this can really affect you with communicating, where maybe you're finding it hard. And this can be a thing during Mercury retrograde where we just can't get the words out of our mouth. This is something you can be moving through at this time. This is also a time where you do want to watch for self-sabotaging tendencies, self-undoing. Now, you have Gemini ruling your 9th house, and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini as well. And so you may be moving through things through 9th house themes and topics like higher education, higher knowledge, belief systems, long distance travel. So I don't recommend traveling during Mercury retrograde or even signing any paperwork, documents, because something can be missed or misunderstood or confusion that will then come to the forefront at the time that Mercury stations direct, and then you'll have to kind of deal with all of that. But those themes and topics can be prevalent as well. Now you have Uranus and Jupiter in your 8th house of taxes and inheritance, money coming in from outside resources, so loans, even your partner's finances. So there can be something unexpected that you're possibly not understanding around those themes and topics, or something unexpected around money coming in from outside resources or your partner's finances that was unexpected. So just something to be mindful of and aware of while moving through this energy. Scorpio, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 11th house, and the 11th house represents friends, friendships, social groups, online connections, humanitarian pursuits. And so this can be a time where you're rethinking and reevaluating friendships, where there can be a misunderstanding with a friend, misunderstandings online. So you do want to watch your communications online, because, generally this can be a time where things can be misunderstood. But for you have this happening in your 11th house. So, leaving comments on somebody's post or anything like that, because we can't see facial expressions or hear the tone, people have a hard time kind of receiving certain messages. And this is a time where you definitely can have misunderstandings around that. So just something to be mindful of. This can also be a time where you're rethinking your direction online. If you have an online business, maybe you're editing, maybe you're redoing something, redoing a video or a project or anything that has to do with your online business. And Mercury retrogrades are really a great time to do that, to edit and redo things, redo projects. Now, Gemini rules your 8th house, and the 8th house, Mercury rules your 8th house because you have Gemini in the 8th house. And the 8th house represents your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, loans, taxes, inheritance. And so there may be something coming up around those themes and topics as well. Maybe even something that you have to move through, you have to deal with, maybe something you're not understanding, and that there will be clarity around these themes and topics once Mercury stations direct. Now, because Venus is retrograde, we don't really want to be making any decisions around our finances. But this can be a time where something's coming up around your partner's finances or money coming in from outside resources. Now, we also have Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus connecting and forming a trine to Mercury retrograde. And you have Taurus in your 7th house. And so there can be something coming in around relationships, partnerships of some kind that is unexpected, but it's a trine. So it's an easy flowing energy. It's not necessarily challenging or hard, but it can be just something unexpected coming in regarding your partner or partnerships, so business partnerships, or really any of your close personal connections. So again, just something that you want to be mindful of. But all in all, Scorpio, this looks like a really beautiful energy. Sagittarius, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 10th house, and your 10th house represents your career, your public reputation, and the legacy you leave behind after your working years. And so during this Mercury retrograde, there can be a lot of energy around changing your direction with your career, even possibly moving through something that's regarding your career, even something confusing. So you definitely want to be mindful around your career themes and topics. So, this is where maybe you're realizing that your current career is no longer in alignment with you. This can even be, you don't really want to be implementing or making any important decisions during Mercury retrograde. This is a time where we don't really want to sign any important documents. If you can, hold off until after September 15th when Mercury stations direct. Even if you can hold on handing in any projects, because there can be something misunderstood. This is, however, a great time for editing, for redoing, reevaluating, redirecting. And so just an energy you want to be mindful of with around your career, because your career is very prevalent and prominent at the time of this Mercury retrograde. Now, you also have Mercury rules Gemini, which is in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, close personal connections. And so you may find that you're also moving through energies around your relationships and close personal connections. So again, just something to be mindful of, that your 7th house is also activated at this time. Now, we have Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus, which is in your 6th house. And so there can be something unexpected coming up around something around your daily routine, even your health, nutrition, and again, even work, because work also resides in the 6th house. So you do have a lot of energy around your work, your career, and the direction that you want to take, or even projects and creations around your working career. And so just just things that you want to be mindful of. And again, if you can hold off on making any decisions or really implementing or handing anything in at this time, this is a great energy for editing, a great energy sitting with, creating projects, redoing projects. But if you can, hold off on implementing anything at this time. And so all in all, Sagittarius, this is a great energy. Capricorn, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 9th house. And the 9th house represents higher knowledge, higher education, long distance travel, your belief systems, philosophy, also publishing, teaching. Those are all 9th house themes and topics. And so during this Mercury retrograde, those themes and topics are going to be prevalent, whether you are reevaluating, redirecting that, redoing projects. This is a great energy for redoing something, editing. This is not a great energy to be traveling at this time. So as your astrologer, I highly recommend not traveling, but this is a really great energy for writing, for redoing anything, like any of your projects. If that's something that is something that you're moving through, this is great energy for that. Now you have Gemini in your 6th house, which Mercury also rules Gemini, and your 6th house represents your work, health, and daily routine. So there also maybe something showing up around your health, your work, or your daily routine, possibly confusing, possibly needing your attention. Something may be brought to your awareness at this time around those themes and topics. There may be something coming up with work where you're having to reevaluate something, redirect something. And so just some energy that you want to be aware of. Now we also have Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus forming a trine to this Mercury retrograde energy, which you have Taurus in your 5th house. And so this is really a great energy for creating projects, redoing projects. You have a lot of energy around that. Now, Uranus can bring in some unexpected energy. Now, it is a trine, so it's nothing really challenging or hard, but there is this unexpectedness to it. Now, if you have children, there can be something unexpected going on with your children that was not foreseen, that was kind of coming out of the blue. And again, not necessarily challenging, just something that was unexpected or unexpecting. Now, this is also a time unexpected. Now, this is also a time too where you may be moving through something creative, passion, because the 5th house can represent creativity and passions. And so there can be an unexpected love partner coming in, if that applies to you. But all in all, Capricorn, this really is a beautiful energy and nothing to really be too aware of. There just may be things showing up unexpectedly with work, and then just don't travel. But this is even too where you can be rethinking the direction and really reevaluating your belief systems in some way. Aquarius, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 8th house, and the 8th house represents your partner's finances, money coming in from outside resources, so loans, taxes, inheritance. And so all of those themes and topics are kind of front and center at the time of this Mercury retrograde, where you can be reevaluating this. There can be changes coming in, there can be confusion around this, there can be something coming in with your partner's finances. Now, we have Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus, which is forming a trine to this Mercury retrograde energy, and you have Taurus in your 4th house. And because of the Uranian element, it really brings in this unexpected energy or shocking energy. So there can be something shocking coming in with your partner's finances or money coming in from outside resources, but there can also be something unexpected around your home, your family, your property, and not necessarily hard or challenging because it is a trine, just something unexpected that and possibly shocking. And you also have Gemini in your 5th house, and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And so those themes and topics are also prominent as well. And so the fifth house for you, the fifth house represents creativity, passions, hobbies, interests, also children. And so there can be those themes and topics are also kind of front and center, where you are reflecting, reevaluating, redirecting, redoing something in some way. It's a great energy to recreate something, or even kind of reflect on your hobbies and interests, or maybe even realize certain things that are no longer in alignment with you. There can also be something unexpected coming in around your children, or even communication with your children. And so all of those themes and topics are also kind of front and center, things you'll be moving through. And because you are an air sign, you can feel this Mercury retrograde energy kind of a little bit more, not intense, but it's definitely there. And so communicating is definitely something that you want to be mindful of at this time. But all in all, Aquarius, it really is a great energy. Pisces, you have this Mercury retrograde happening in your 7th house. And the 7th house represents your close personal connections, your relationships, partnerships of all kinds. And this Mercury retrograde is also opposing your ascendant in Virgo, or sorry, not in Virgo, your ascendant in Pisces, because Virgo is opposite Pisces. And so you may find that there can be miscommunication with your partnerships, or misunderstandings, or maybe there's balance required between you and your partnership. So definitely something to be mindful of. This can also be a time where you're possibly reflecting on your close personal relationships, maybe realizing who is no longer in alignment, reevaluating the people in your life, looking at the people in your life, and kind of just moving through that energy. Now, you also have Gemini in the 4th house, and Mercury rules Gemini. And so 4th house topics are also prevalent at this time, which the 4th house represents home, family, property, real estate. And so this is a time where maybe there's something coming up around your home, around your family, that's really brought to your awareness, maybe confusion and also misunderstandings. So you do want to watch communication at this time. This is where there can be misunderstandings, where the miscommunication, especially with you around your home and family. Now, we also have Uranus and Jupiter, which is in your 3rd house. So again, that represents communication, neighbors, community, neighborhood, siblings, cousins. And with the Uranian element, it can be something very unexpected, something very sudden, but not necessarily challenging or hard, just unexpected. So definitely an energy to be mindful of, Pisces. But all in all, it really is a great energy. I think you'll just be moving through a lot around relationships, and really just kind of needing to balance that energy out, watch communication and stuff like that. So all in all, Pisces, it really is a great energy.